All right, welcome everybody to the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My name is Paul Delegro, your host, and I have quite a crew here today as guests on the show. So first up is Terry Murray, who is the president of Prescriptive Data Solutions. Then we have Mark Alexander, who runs the Prescriptive Microsoft practice manager, and we have John Parker, who's the network and practice manager as well with Prescriptive. But last but not least, we always have to have a lawyer on the show in these situations. Is Samantha Alcazay? Did I say that right, Samantha?
Yep, absolutely.
Right. That's a mouthful. I'm glad I got it right. I don't want you to be mad at me. Terry already warned me about you.
Oh yes, quite the temper I have. Yes, yeah. Of course.
So, and Samantha is a corporate attorney and law professor. So, the reason, one of the topic for today is going to be AI, and I think we're all getting overwhelmed with AI. Like, you just hear it everywhere. It's like that buzzword, and I don't think anyone really knows everything about it. But what we want to do today is kind of look at it from several different perspectives. Like, say, Terry's the president of Prescriptive. We want to kind of hear his view as a president of a company and how that impacts the business, the employees, and life in general, right? All the above. And then we have a couple of the technical folks from Prescriptive, Mark and John. They're going to take, really give their perspective from the technical standpoint and some of the red flags and the precautions that we should be taking in that aspect as well. And then Sam, obviously, there's a lot of legal ramifications around AI as it's growing and expanding. It's here to stay. What can we do? What can we not do? Right. And what are the legal ramifications around that? So I hope that makes sense to everybody.
Sounds good, Paul.
And I want this to be free flowing, guys. I want this to, ask each other questions, not just me asking questions and prodding people. I want this to be open dialogue. So looking forward to a very healthy debate here.
Yeah, I was worried there. Good? We got legal on the line. I was a little scared, but okay.
Yeah.
we make it soon. I don't know. So I'll tell you what, I kind of teed it up, kind of what the goal is today, but I'll turn it over to Terry right now, Terry Murray, the president of Prescriptive, and kind of get him the ball rolling at his perspective of where AI is and where he sees it going, and as a president of a company.
Sure. Terry? Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
So for me, part of why I started thinking about why this might be a good idea to have this conversation is if I think back to AI, specifically ChatGPT, right, was the first chat interface that I came across with AI. And I think you got in there, you tried some things. It was kind of amazing to see what it would do. And that wasn't that long ago. And then, we're certainly talking with customers about AI and hearing what they're trying to do. But just from a business perspective, looking internally at, we're trying to run this business and the impact that AI is having in that. For me, it just all of a sudden went from, if there is some AI, it's way in the background. It's not something you see or touch, to where it's now everywhere. So the different applications that we run are now, some of them just add AI to the marketing. Nothing's actually changed. That's a pretty common technique. But I think some of them also, there's AI capabilities within these tools. I started to see when we would have our Monday team meeting, all these little bots popping up that were AI, that were going to record this meeting, different apps. Quite honestly, initially, I didn't even know, well, who set this up and why is this kind of coming in? Yeah. We started to see where folks emails would start coming across where you're looking at, and I've been working with this person for a number of years. They've never sent me an email that looks this way, right? It's just obvious to me, okay, this was AI generated. So as I started thinking about it, it's really, I see that there's potential, like everybody else, there's opportunities, right? We're like any other business to say, how could we leverage these technologies in a way that is effective, makes everybody more efficient? We can do things a little bit faster. Can we get rid of maybe some of the tedious things? So looking at what are the opportunities, but also thinking about all the different challenges that come with that, whether it be legal or it may be compliance. or just how we kind of operate, right? One of the first things that popped into my head is when I started realizing that we're essentially recording every meeting. And
Yeah.
in some cases, every single call is being recorded.
Mhm.
And it's a business call. You should be always keeping it professional, right? There's no question. But I started thinking about, oh, every call that I've had, how long do we keep these things, right? Is that a
Yeah.
90 days? Is that 80? When is that dumb thing I said going to kind of roll off? Because not only is it out there, but because of AI, it's
Yeah.
indexed and you can ask it about it. You don't have to listen to that 2 hours to hear the dumb thing I said. You can just go and search. So that's just kind of broad, Paul, but these are
Yeah.
just all the things I think about. And, how should we embrace these technologies? What are the risks and concerns we should have? And these, I think, are the right folks to kind of have that discussion.
Yeah, no, thanks, Terry. And a lot of the things you're saying is stuff we've thought about. Like I use ChatGPT, you brought that up. But one of the things I wonder about from my perspective is like, am I getting lazy? That's the biggest thing I say is,
Mhm.
am I, instead of like writing an email myself, do I just kind of rely on ChatGPT all the time to do it? And I think that's, kind of the things I'm thinking about. But I'll, uh, I'll
I
turn
think
it over to the technical guys to start. John, if you want to kick it over to you and get your perception of where we're at with this AI journey.
Sure. Well, I mean, Terry hit the nail on the head right out of the gate is that it's in the workplace, right? And it was quickly adopted, right? I mean, like there wasn't even like real hesitation for the most part. It was like became the buzzword, and then every tool, every platform started having it, and it was just all in. And it created this kind of the same thing we've been dealing with forever, which is like the shadow IT from my security side of this. Is like I'm concerned about what tools are people bringing to the table that I didn't approve, right? That I didn't allow into our environment to for whatever extent. And now it's not just shadow IT anymore. It's now shadow AI because
Yeah.
what data is going in there from the business side? This is a concern of like any business owner, especially legal too. But what data is going in there? Is it my data? Is it the company's data? Is it my customer's data? It's going into this platform, and I didn't even approve it as it's being used in the environment. So you've got this super high adoption rate around AI, and we know we can't really like fight the battle in the sense of like you're not going to use it because how do you have full control over all aspects? And this has historically been the same problem when it comes to just cybersecurity as it is I can only control what is in my realm, right? If you're going to allow users to bring their own cell phones into an environment, like I have no control over that other than say, don't bring your cell phone in here, right? It's this that I can create policies and rules and things like that. But in general, I don't think we're going to be able to stop it. It's so much as slow it and maybe control some aspects of it, just like we've done with Shadow IT, Shadow AI. It's going to be the same thing for the time being.
Well, I think it's worse, right? So I think about the data aspect, right? You have no idea how many AI tools are out there. I mean, there's dozens. And like you said, the adoption curve, you know, previous technologies had at least a slope on it. This thing looks pretty much vertical. But, you talk about shadow IT, and I know you're the network security guy. You have your fingers in a lot of realms, but I've seen it. I've been in those client meetings and okay, cool. I can't use it in Teams. Well, I see the salesperson putting the phone and hitting a button and now they're recording on the phone. So,
Yeah.
there's technology aspects, but there's also, I don't know, Samantha, legal perspectives and, policies, right? Something that a company says it should not do or it does not want its employees to do. But what does it circle around? I mean, it's the data that's leaving the environment, right? And you have no idea where it's going. At least Microsoft has put some wording around it that says, hey, it's going to be inside the tenant, it's going to be protected. And then others, who knows? I mean, it's going to some cloud somewhere, beyond. Like it's like when you
Yeah.
send that email outside your company, you have no control over it. It's
Well,
uncontrolled. That
it's funny. Somebody the other day said, well, what if they get breached? And I kind of laughed because I was like, you mean when they get breached?
yeah,
Because everybody
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
breached,
It's not an if.
right?
Yeah.
They will eventually. And so that data will get exposed out there. Now, it could still get exposed in your own tenant, but at least you know where hypothetically, you know where it is, as opposed to just being some rando. I found this new little AI tool. I loaded it on my phone, and now I'm recording everything, putting all your data in it.
well, and that's now, right? I don't know how many times you've seen, oh, I get that email. I got one today. Spotify T's and C's have changed. Do I open that email up and read through all the details? I
Right.
mean, today they said they're going to do this, and tomorrow, who knows? It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask Sam, I mean, there's a lot there, but also, Paul, you had said something specifically about the email and, hey, I'm letting the AI write it for me. Am I getting lazy? And I thought that was interesting because I think Sam kind of has a perspective on that there's some evidence out there that that's kind of what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to touch on, I think what everyone has already talked about thus far and like the legal aspects of it, Terry, you brought up the recording and note taking, right, with these different AI tools, whether it's shadow AI or something that's been recognized by the company, that has triggered state privacy laws already, federal agency concerns. There's a case involving Otter note taker and autopilot with concerns of lack of knowledge of recordings going on. That's a case that's already come out regarding concerns, right? Are you in a state that allows multiple party recording, one party recording? That's a concern. To Paul's point regarding the concerns of what is called cognitive offloading, right, where you are bypassing the effort stage of some sort of learning or task or exercising a skill. It's famous probably now at this point, the study from MIT of your brain on ChatGPT, where they had different control groups, one that used LLMs, one that did not, one just used search engines. And they had found that the parties who were using the LLMs had the weakest performance, right?
Wow.
And the reason I'm speaking on that is I not only try to speak from a legal perspective, but also from pedagogical, andragogical, from being a law professor, right? And what my concerns are in that realm, which I believe honestly directly translate to proper use within a workspace as well, beyond just legal, but also for work quality, right? And then another point I wanted to make is the concerns about shadow AI and cybersecurity, right? Are you following what we can at least see from NIST and other recommendations that are available right now in this very new frontier, right? AI impacts countless areas of law, right? We could go on a tangent of environmental law, human rights, consumer protections, all the constitutional law. But of course, today we're just focusing on like an internal corporate governance, compliance, right? The good news is we can at least look at laws that have already been in place that have been applied to technology, right? Like we can look at, again, NIST's framework of what they recommend. We can look at how FTC has been handling any company that is using technology, which would include AI, in a way that results in an unfair, deceptive practice. We also get triggers, though, with EEOC, right? If AI is not used in a way that is appropriate, that would protect certain classes, SEC violations. There's just a lot going on there. But yes, definitely for internal governance, you definitely want to have some eyes open regarding shadow AI and use of that, because the moment you use the wrong tool, you could end up having to refamiliarize yourself with ransomware timelines and protocols and all these other issues, right? And kick open that incident response plan that hopefully your counsel and the rest of the team have worked on for the company.
For sure.
Man, I'm just getting a lot of doom and gloom.
Yeah, really.
There's some good too. There's some good we can talk about too, positive ways to use AI as well. Definitely.
it's funny.
Change, right? It's so new and it's happening
Yeah.
so fast. I think that's what for me is so shocking.
Yeah, to me, there's so much positive that can come out of this, right?
Yes.
But there's the bad guys out there, right? That's the guys I worry about. Okay, how can the nefarious characters out there use this to their advantage? And that's why we have guys like John and Mark on our team to help companies guard against that, right?
Absolutely. Well, and I'll kind of talk about what Sam was saying about governance. The fact is that we're seeing more structured governance come out around AI now. Before, if you look at the new from NIST, right, around the AI framework, compared it to the traditional NIST, cybersecurity framework, it's built on the same principles. Nothing has really changed on like how you should be approaching it. It's more like tailored language to be like, well, this is how you do this with AI. Even though if you kind of peel it back, it's you should have already been doing this holistically for your environment to safeguard yourself. So it's now just like, hey, let's put a real strong lens on here because it's become easier to give away your data. It's easier to access because there this adoption rate. As before, it makes me think of the days of like email, right? Is that email is still the number one attack vector. I mean, it is what it is. But we've done such a good job of like training people around like phishing attacks and things like this that all the things we did that. I'm not saying it went away, but people became more alert to this method of getting attacked. But now that you're leveraging AI into the mix and the fact that one, the tools are being used against us, like to craft emails so that no one really, to your point of that cognitive offload. Well, before someone had to think of what to write, now it's, hey, create an email, right, for this audience of people that's tailored to the industry they're in and send it, and it looks really, really
Yeah.
legitimate. A lot more so like those are the types of things that have me concerned around the bad guys, to your point, Paul, the bad guys. But if we do what we're supposed to do from like a governance and compliance standpoint, we can at least start protecting as much as we can. And then we have to constantly be adapting and adopting different methods to protect ourselves as new methods come out. And I was just reading about, I was saying in the last week or so, the fully AI generated um, malware ransomware attack. Like from start to finish, the entire set of code was 100% created via AI with
Wow.
only a measure of prompt engineering in the beginning to get it started. And then it said, hey, create this for me. And it outputted this entire list of things to be able to accomplish this goal of being the bad guy, taking somebody out. And so to your point, everybody's using it, some for good purposes, like help us, stay on top of our business, and others are like, hey, let's take down other businesses with AI. So we've got a work cut out for us for sure on the security space.
Yeah, no question.
That's interesting. Eventually, when they talk about AI, right, on the security side, because I've seen some stuff, I think some people still have the idea that there's a lone hacker in his basement that's breaking in, right? And
Yeah.
I kind of get that if you're a specific agency, there might be specific individuals targeting you directly, right? But I feel like most of them are just looking for a hole somewhere.
Mhm.
And once they get a hole, then they try to figure out, is this sucker good for a 10K ransom or $1 million ransom, right? But they'll take either one. But it's interesting because we did a little simulation with one of our partners where they walked you through going through just available resources and how you could quickly build out and attack somebody. And that was pre-AI. And the thing that stuck with me is that you have these brilliant people that can do these attacks, but it's becoming easier and easier to where you get to the point with AI that, well, now you don't have to know anything, right? You
Yeah.
just kind of have the will to, I want to do this.
Push a
And
couple of
it's one of
buttons,
those,
right?
yeah, and I think it's going to be, when I look at them trying to lock things down, it's just a challenge. You don't have to have the massive volume that some of the LLMs have, right? What is it, SLM? So it's a small language model.
Mhm.
You can build those things very discreet, and they're talking about having them on your phone. I don't know how you're going to, protect every single little device. If I can do it with a Mac Mini, and I don't need to put it in the cloud, I don't need to use the big LLMs out there. It starts, I think, well, how are you going to prevent that? You're just going to have to, feels like you're just going to have to defend it. There's not going to be any stamp. We're just going to stop it, and that won't happen.
Well, something that I'm saying also that I kind of find the humor in it is now you have partners and software companies that are using AI to defend. So are we going to find ourselves in a world where AI is attacking, AI is defending, and here we are on the sidelines, AI is just arguing with itself while we're just trying to do our jobs day to
Yeah.
day.
It's like a sci-fi movie,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, there's
The
just
good
this
AI and the
balance,
bad AI.
right? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's just this balance of how do you use AI effectively that creates quality work product while at the same time reducing cybersecurity risks, privacy law risks, SEC violations for some people, right? I can get into that another time, but also too, because of these fears of this happening, there was another study that came out from Harvard Business Review, the hidden penalty of using AI at work. I'm sure that one's pretty familiar to everyone by now too. Even when companies have integrated an AI tool that has been assessed for quality protections and could actually improve productivity, it showed that when people were using the tool that was proffered for proper use, people who were using the tool, despite people were not were actually being graded harsher for competence, even though it was the exact same type of work product. And there was also a gender bias in that sort of penalties, right? And so it's actually made some people more fearful in using approved AI tools, right? And again, at the same time, you do have to ask whether a tool is even worth using when there's also studies that show, there was an assumption that AI improved productivity when it really didn't. I think it was measuring the impact of early 2025 AI on experienced open source developer productivity. There was an assumption, right, by the people using it that there was an improvement in productivity when actually there was a reduction by 20%. So again,
Really?
it's just there's a lot of assessments you have to do of whether or not this is even worth creating a legal risk. And then if so, are people going to be comfortable using it? Is there a protocol that the company is providing here of how to use it effectively? And at a later point, I may bring up what I do of teaching appropriate use of enhancement versus creation, but I think that's down the line in the conversation.
So it's interesting. I think it gets a ton of use in development, right? I hear that over and over. I mean, it's a language. Development is just a language, so that works. I get why that's so prevalent. But when you mention that, there's a tendency to perhaps, discount somebody's capability if you see that they're using AI for stuff, right? And it's one of the things I think about that. I made a little post out on LinkedIn that the best use of AI is when the receiver does not recognize that it's AI, right? And I can say that I'm guilty of now. It's what I will see sometimes. It's not just that it's AI; it's obviously AI, and then it's full of errors. And I think when I see that, I think the same thing almost as if somebody sent me just a regular email. It's just grammatic errors all over the place, and I guess it's slightly different because sometimes then I just think they're lazy. They didn't take the time to really, do this. Yeah. But other times I almost think, well, they sent me this. Why did they not see this and know that this is wrong or that it doesn't make any sense what they've sent me? And that's unfortunate because that's not necessarily true. It's more of, in some cases, they don't know how to use the tool. They haven't been taught. They haven't learned it. And and in some cases, they don't really know the level they're talking about. So when they review it, it looks right. And then you send it to somebody that maybe knows a little bit, and they're like, not only is this wrong, but it contradicts itself about 3 times in this email. So I guess that's the work slop, right? Is kind of where that term comes from. So, and there's something to be said for etiquette, I think, too, a little bit. If you send somebody, and we've had a couple of customers that someone elected to send them an email they said they sent us a question. The person took that question, put it in ChatGPT or whatever, and sent that back. And the customer was super irritated, right? Because they're like, I could have put it in ChatGPT myself, right? Yeah, I'm asking you, which is a good point. They may not have even been thinking about it that way. They were just thinking this is a fast way to get that, but it comes across very rude, right? To some extent, that you didn't even bother to take the time to think about this. You just let me Google that for you is basically what you did to me.
Yeah, and I think Terry, I heard you said that if you do AI, right, ask it a question on something you don't know, it sounds brilliant. You're like, man, that's great. And then on the flip side, if you're asking something that you're very knowledgeable about, you're like, man, this is bad, or you can spot errors, right? So I find that a lot, right? When I'm, like you talked about, when I'm coding, I find it very useful. Before AI came on board, right, I'd start with a blank sheet of paper, and man, it would take a good bit of time to get going, right? But I view this as like YouTube, when I'm doing repair on my truck, or I'm using YouTube to figure out how to do maybe some light plumbing or electrical work at my house. With programming, man, it may be 60%, but
Yeah.
I know what's involved and I know how to check it. And I know, oh, that's good. That gives me a head start in a running start, and I can take it from there. And sometimes I feel like I'm walking alongside it. And I can say, yeah, I see what you're doing, but I need you to do this instead. And that's been very, very useful. But I find it most useful when it's something that I know and I have that understanding of how to QC it. And like you're talking about, Terry,
Yeah.
I've seen those other cases where somebody just takes the output and they just throw it over the fence. I don't, and again, is it because they're being lazy or they just don't know? And it sounds good to them because of that paradigm that we were talking about earlier.
I think it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, really.
On your side, Mark, right? First thing I want to point out, just as a joke, is that I don't know how long it'll be before like YouTube will be AI created content, and then I don't know if you'll be able to trust it
Well, it's
on
real.
how to do your plumbing work and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
the thing I was thinking about, and this is kind of one of those weird things where we talk about how we learn, right? Is that of course we learn through interaction and things like that, but historically speaking, we would go and here's your textbook, read this textbook, and we kind of treat that as that's law, right? This is the fact, right? I'm learning from here. I'm not saying it can't have errors, but in general, when we read a textbook, we say this is what is we're learning. This is how we interpret this. And then as let's say search engines came about, like Google, and we had this massive ability to gather vast amount of data faster, there was this weird period of time where we're like, hey, is this real? Is this right? When we were using now termed Google, because before it was this, oh, I went to my, search engine or whatever, but now it's we Google something. And so using Google, right, we would get the answer. And now it's like, okay, we kind of just trust that it's going to be right because it's in the top, 10 pages that came back, as long as our query was correct.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with AI, and you hit the nail on the head. Is that if you at least know what you're talking about and you can kind of determine that this doesn't really look correct, but for the most part, people are using it just like the search engine methodology, and they're just assuming that it's going to give me back the right answer. And by far is it, I mean, maybe it might try, and maybe the question or prompt is just good enough, you'll get the right answer. But if you leave way too much wiggle room in what you're asking it could interpret it any different way. And especially if you're using several different AI engines, different learning models, you're not going to get the same result. Whereas if I go to Google versus Bing versus whatever, and I search, tell me this, I'm probably going to get the same answer from all 3 or 4 different search engines. But that's not proof in AI that I'm going to get the same answer.
Right.
So that's a really weird learning method.
Well, and I grew up in IT, right? What is IT based on? Zeros and ones. It's either on or off, right? It's finite, right? And as I've kind of evolved in the IT realm, I've run into situations where I'm troubleshooting an issue or something, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I kind of called that, man, I don't understand in a zero and one situation why it would be so moody. But now you throw in AI, and you're absolutely right. You could get one answer one day, you could get a completely different answer the next day if you're not very surgical or specific on what you're asking. And that's a risk point, right? And some of that could be, a result of you just not knowing. Either you didn't ask or you literally don't know. So there's some assumptions that are being made. And it blows my mind how moody it can be and create that variance. And so you're losing a lot of that factual black and whiteness.